your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement. This is the Atheist Manifesto. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Atheist Manifesto. We are live. It's Christmas Eve. We're hanging out with some friends. We're doing Friendsmas. We got Trav, we got Aiden, we got Marissa, and we've got my fabulous, wonderful, amazing co-host, Ari Stillman. How's everyone doing?
Can't complain too much, I guess.
Just get it.
So that was very non-committal. I mean...
I feel like I've done this before on a holiday, except nobody knew who I was.
Right. Well, and now everyone knows who you are.
So.
Yep, which is why this will be the lowest rated holiday episode ever.
I am
Cool.
eggnog like normal humans like. Eggnog is delicious, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But no one else
alcoholic.
can like it because it's all mine.
Cool. And the Facebook Live feed just crashed, so that's fun. So we inherited tech issues from No Religion Required, so that's fun.
Yeah.
We are live on
Damn it, Bobby.
Spreaker, and we will be live on Facebook Live as soon as I'm just going to close out Chrome. I'm going to restart my browser, and we're going to do the thing. So in the meantime, a couple of things I wanted to talk about, because the holidays are weird, right? The holidays are weird for lots of people who don't have weird relationships with family and friends. But for trans people, it can be especially weird in a lot of different ways. And so, you know, that got me thinking about how, not only how we deal with family relationships, both the chosen and DNA variety, but how we deal with our past in general. And a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine a while ago, and she was talking about how someone who was related to her had come out as trans, and there was a picture of that person pre-transition in this person's house, and she was wondering, like, is that like a bad thing? Should I not have that? Because in my mind, it's the same person and I just really like that picture, but is it a painful reminder of your past? And so that kind of got me thinking about the intersection of all of those different things and how they all come together. And because that is so much of, if we do still have contact with our family, that's so much of those interactions is sort of wrapped up in who we used to be or who we used to pretend to be, if that makes sense. So wanted to kind of just talk about all of that stuff in general. So I think it might be a good idea for us to just kind of go around the circle and just kind of talk about where we are with that dynamic. Ari, you wanna go first?
No, I do not. Marissa, I nominate you.
All right. So
I'm doing good with boundaries, people.
Yeah, Ari, you don't even know which person's your co-host right now.
Right. Ari must be very confused right now.
So part of what it's been for me is that I had this weird fortune of meeting a ton of famous people before they also knew who I was. And God, that sounds so fucking arrogant. But like, I have, you can't really see it back here, but just this wall of like famous people I've met and bands I've seen and all these people I've spent time with. And I have hundreds of pictures. And I've been very slowly taking them off my wall because I'm no longer comfortable seeing them. You know, I have some with Jim Brown, Hall of Fame football player, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, a famous blues guitarist. Like, there's just so many different ones that even early in my transition, I was like, oh yeah, that's me before I transitioned. And now I look at it like, oh God, Riss, you're compensating so hard. Oh, please just stop. That beard you have in that picture with Patton Oswalt, can we just Photoshop that shit out? It's gross. Aiden?
Oh, well, I don't know. I At least as far as how I'm handling things before and after transition, I've found that I'm actually kind of comfortable with it. I remember my mom freaking out a few months ago because she had done some research and she read a few articles online and saw that a lot of trans men were actively trying to escape, pictures of themselves when they were younger because they didn't want to be reminded of that. And she was like, "Please tell me that's not what you want." No, Mom, I'm good. I really have no problems pointing out. Yeah, I used to look like a chick, and that's just who I was. My gender doesn't really seem to have any. And it doesn't really seem to mar most of my memories.
Yeah, your voice sounds like you used to be doing a falsetto.
Tell me about it. That Facebook video of me with toes back in February still gets me.
It's bizarre.
It really is. There goes the microphone. So yeah, I found I'm actually kind of comfortable about that, and it doesn't really bother me. I mean, who was it? I remember Alex had commented. I guess I should clarify. It was Alex Edmonton, I think. And if I got your last name wrong, I'm really sorry. No offense intended. But I remember he'd seemed surprised by my photo, and I had made a joke. Yeah, I know. I used to be a looker back then, which is true. I was, but
And then I ruined it with man juice.
I was gonna say, as opposed to now, like
We traded tits, Aiden. That's just how
I'm okay with that.
Trav?
Next.
Well, I'm actually, first of all, I just want to say come clean about one thing. I want to fuck an elf.
Hang on.
stealing
sorry.
jokes to get fans.
Yes, I am. I have no original personality of my own, and so all my life I've been pretending to be other people. Which leads me to my serious answer to this question. I'm kind of in a weird spot as a non-binary person who's semi-stealth and goes by a name that's basically a condensed version of my given name. It's a really odd situation because, first of all, I should say that my parents know that I'm non-binary. They're totally cool with it. But even then, there are still some things that still some difficult things. They haven't said anything abusive to me or anything like that, but the pronoun thing is definitely something that they actually don't really bother with. Not because, they think that they're silly or anything like that. It's just, well, my mom has, first of all, my mom has neurological problems, and so she still refers to me by the dog's name sometimes, and so we're trying to remind her to call me they instead of he might be a little too much. Maybe I'll meet them halfway and just say, how about no pronouns at all and just call me Trav? We did have she did ask me if whether or not she could still call me son. That got me to thinking because there's no real gender neutral there actually are gender neutral forms, kid and child, but I'm 34, and so, her referring to me as her kid or her child, will sound weird. Offspring sounds weird too. So, as far as pictures in the house, well, I don't really mind so much. I kind of I wouldn't say I like looking at photos of myself, but I kind of, I don't freak out. I just look and say, wow, I've come a really long way. Look how unhappy I was in those pictures. There's a reason. Turns out there's a reason why I didn't smile in pictures. It wasn't, at the time I thought it was just to be cool. It's like, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stank face.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. Like I said, that's my sort of weird spot that I'm in.
Yeah. Ari, are you
What was
passing on
the
this one completely? So
Eggnog's getting to you?
Well, so what I've been thinking about is the idea of how the holidays are associated with families, and then how that ends up being a thing where you end up confronting your past self, or who who you used to be, who you used to pretend to be, who everyone else used to think you are, and how you react when you're confronted with reminders of that, and that kind of thing is more that and how that sort of translates into interactions with family, if that makes sense.
Right. So I don't know if I really have a whole lot to say about this. I have a kind of strange situation in that my life as far as gender has really been, I guess, divided into three parts. The first one being wasn't aware of my gender identity. The second one being was aware but had to stay in the closet for safety. And then the third being right when I moved states, I immediately changed my name socially and started testosterone and all of that. And that's also the same time that I had to cut contact with my biological family. So it's like this very strange kind of very drastic split, I think, between these two parts of my life. Hi, Devin. Hi. So it rather than having like I guess I did sort of in that period where I knew what my identity was, but I wasn't able to live that way with everybody in my life. I guess I did have kind of a period of that like uncomfortableness where I knew what it was that I wanted, and I knew what it was. I knew how I wanted to express myself, and I knew I didn't want to be wearing these certain clothes or being referred to in this certain way, but I just kind of had to just grin and bear it because it was better than the alternative, which was coming out and losing my safety. So now that I have cut contact with my family and I'm totally out all the time, it's just like, it's not even a thing. Like, it's just like any other day, I guess. Like, my partners all call me with the right name and pronouns and everything. So I don't know what else to say about that, I guess. And I don't really have that many pictures of myself from when I was younger, but I would like to have some because I don't have any because my family all has them. But I don't think I would be upset by them because I knew somewhere inside me at the time that whatever, if I was like being forced to wear a dress or whatever, I was like, I don't like this. But it wasn't like a soul crushing kind of experience, at least not for me. I guess, holiday things would just make me think rather than being focused on like gender stuff, it would be more focused on like family and abuse and trauma stuff. So
yeah.
Kind of, I guess, a different-ish experience in that the gender stuff doesn't really factor in a whole lot for me around the holidays. Not any more than it does usually.
Yeah. I think when I'm thinking about things like this, I think of two conversations. The first one is when I originally came out. One of my best friends, someone who I've known since I was like 14, we were talking, we were standing outside of IHOP in the middle of summer. It was like 2:00 in the morning, just having conversations like we used to do when we were like 17 or 18. And he was just being super honest and vulnerable about what some of his fears may be, like surrounding the unknown, like, so like, you're going to come out, you're going to change the way that you look and everything like that. And he asked like, well, so are you going to take all your old pictures down off of Facebook? And I was like, gosh, I hadn't even really thought about that. And it took me a second. What he was actually getting at was whether or not I was going to erase my past and try to pretend like I had never lived my life as this other person. And all of these amazing memories that we had shared together, was I just going to move on from that and pretend like none of that ever happened? And thinking about it, like, I understand his fear and hesitation surrounding that. Like, I understand that because, for like almost 20 years up to that point, we have all of this amazing stuff that we did together. Some really like formative life experiences. And I kind of came down on the side of, I don't really have a lot of rough stuff in my past aside from dealing with gender issues. So like, I don't really have anything negative associated with that aside from like the fact that I was struggling with being trans. And so like, when I see an old picture of me on stage with my band, I don't think, oh my God, I looked like a dude and I hated that. I think, oh my God, what a good time I had with my best friends. And I've kind of gone back and forth on that because there are some times where I'm just like, oh my God, like I wish I could just like Photoshop my current self over top of those pictures and just like pretend like I look like I do now back then. But there was also a conversation that I had with my grandma. So this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. My ex had bought me an introductory flight lesson for my birthday or for Christmas. I can't remember which, because there was a while where I was really infatuated with the idea of becoming a pilot, learning how to fly a plane, even if not as a career, just something as a hobby. Of course, it costs like $10,000 just to get a private pilot's license. So like that idea got shot down real fast. But so and it's really awesome. You go back, they give you like a 20-minute, like, here's how planes work. The instructor does the takeoff, and as soon as you're in the air, he's just like, well, take the wheel and here you go. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm actually flying a plane right now. But one of the things that they do is they take a picture with you and the instructor standing in front of the plane. And my grandma, or no, I'm sorry, I had that picture and I had thrown it away because I very heavily associated that picture with my ex. It was also like me looking ostensibly like a bearded dude. And so I was like, yeah, that's one picture that I'm not okay with sticking around, because my grandma has tons of pictures of me, like in my freaking wrestling onesie and all my prom pictures and my like 5th and 6th grade school pictures. And I don't feel as badly about those because I don't see as much of a direct connection between those pictures and the way that I am now. But at the time, that picture was like, oh, this was literally like a year ago. So I was like really uncomfortable with that. So I threw it away, and my grandma actually got it out of the trash and decided that she was going to keep it. And we actually ended up getting into a fight over it. And I said, okay, regardless of anything else, this belongs to me and I am choosing to throw it away, regardless of what it represents. This belongs to me and I want it gone. And that was also one of the really frustrating conversations that I had with her, is like, this is a very painful reminder of the relationship that I just ended, that I didn't want to end. And there's now all kinds of animosity between us. And it was like, you know, one of the bright spots in the middle of that really terrible thing. And I don't want to be reminded of that. Not to mention the fact that, like, I'm trans, I've come out, I look a lot different now, I present a lot differently now, and I'm just not comfortable with this existing in the world. And I mean, we ended up like almost yelling at each other back and forth. And so it's interesting to me that I could have such opposite feelings about, that picture versus a picture from around the same time frame that I have a happy association with. So it was almost like the being trans thing didn't even necessarily factor in, which I think is interesting. And then I think about kind of tying that into holidays and that being a reminder of things. I think about how a lot of queer and trans people obviously aren't welcome at home after they come out for one reason or another. And the weird thing about me is I would be, right? Like, I would be there and everyone would be nice-ish, as far as like being polite and making small talk and that kind of stuff. There was never a like, get the hell out of our lives because we think you're terrible moment. There was ever anything like that. I actually chose to remove myself from that situation and made the active decision, like, this is really awkward and frustrating. And I know, like, as nice as they're being to me, they don't accept me for who I am. And that's not an environment that I want to be in. And I own my right to do that. Like, I don't feel bad for making that decision, but it is weird to me. Like, I mean, there are so many people who I guess would want, like, at least the dynamic that I have. And I'm like choosing to separate myself from it. So I don't know. Further thoughts? Anyone?
I'm sorry, were you about to say something, Marissa?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I totally get what you're saying about, certain pictures from your past, make you uncomfortable, not because, you're presenting differently, but because that particular situation brought up just bad memories in general. Same thing with my ex-fiance. Like, if I see, if Facebook memories shows me pictures.
Fuck Facebook memories, like, in so many situations.
Well, actually, some of them are kind of funny, but like a lot of them, I don't know. It's like half and half. It's like a lot of times it shows like half of it's like funny stuff I posted during my atheist years, and half of it is like stuff I posted during my sort of cishet Christian years, where it's like ugh. And especially the pictures. And especially also pictures of me and my ex-fiance, which I'm kind of dreading tomorrow because I know that Facebook Memories is going to show pictures of me spending time with my ex and her family during past Christmases. And, it's probably going to bring up some pretty bad memories because, that was a situation which was definitely spiritually abusive to me because, her and her family were like extremely, right-wing Calvinistic, fundamentalists, and often said that I wasn't like, a true man of God. They were right, actually, all along.
It turns out.
Yeah. I kind of want to drive up to their house and go, surprise! But I don't think that would really work. How you like me now, bitch? But I definitely also have to say that, when I see those pictures, part of me is like, oh, yeah, that was a time in my life. And another part of me is like, I may be an atheist, but thank God that's over with.
I guess in retrospect, I'm really happy with the fact that I made a new account. Like, I didn't start on Marissa Facebook until about 2014, and I was on Facebook since the early years under my dead name. So for
Marissa was an OG.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I needed a college address. Like, that's how old it is.
Oh, wow.
But for many years I was holding both. Like I had the public profile and then I had the real profile. So most of the memories I have are of me struggling with my gender identity. And I think I also have a relatively unique experience of dealing with these feelings for well over a decade before I started making them public. Like I started really exploring my gender back at 18, which was, 2002, 2003. So there's many years worth of pictures, both presenting femme and pretending to be a guy. And that sort of has a weird connotation to it. Like there's even pictures in my parents' house of me as a teenager and I'm wearing makeup and obviously femme clothes, and they just didn't get it because they just thought I was gay. They're right. Just once again, like Trav said, wrong way.
Well, and when you have that kind of style, that's almost an excuse, right? Because I remember when I was 16 and playing in bands, I would wear fishnets and like paint my nails black, and everybody just thought, yeah, exactly. Like everybody just thought like, oh, that's a music thing. That's because you're in a band, okay? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what it is. Go ahead and believe that. That's fine.
Yeah.
I had super long hair and did the goth thing too when I was, 18, 19, and pretty much the same reason. But as for going home, I wouldn't say it was openly hostile. My grandparents really went out of their way to accommodate, although they made sure to mention, that it was a difficult transition for them because they knew me for how long. But with my parents, it felt a little more hostile for a little while, and not even in like an open way, but just it felt like a willful disregard, and it felt like a burden. I felt that the way I was being regarded made me feel like a burden, but then it didn't. I would say halfway through this year, around the time of the live show, I saw it take a turn. But there was a small period of time where I was sitting there talking to my grandmother, and you were there.
Yeah.
And she referred to me the wrong way, corrected herself, but then noticed that I flinched a little bit and, said something along the lines of, well, I can't really walk on eggshells. Come on, you got to give me time. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't even say anything. If you're going to police me down to my reactions, nonverbal, this is really uncomfortable. So I would say it was difficult for a while, but it's getting better.
Good.
It was kind of rocky, at least with my mom coming out. She oh God.
I get the feeling there's a story there.
Oh yeah.
Long one. Yeah.
One of my favorite comments of all time.
Oh God. So yeah, summer last year, she accidentally stumbled on it and called me, and oh my God, was she mad? Why didn't you tell me?
She accidentally stumbled on it. How?
My cousin she found my account, and
Like on Facebook?
yeah, and
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of difficult to do at the time because I had no spine back then, and it was a choice between willfully delete her or be nice, and I did, and practically begged her, for the love of God, do not tell my mother. I will tell her when I'm ready, please. And I think my cousin had commented on something, and according to what I heard, my mother saw and found out and called me, and she was angry. To answer her question, this was part of the reason why. Surprise. And that went for a while, and it looked like she was trying, but very uncomfortable at the time. And I was still seeing my therapist after getting my letter of support. I really make it no secret, but I have a huge history with abuse and gaslighting and whatnot, and I was starting to address that. And I finally had a falling out with my mother where we actually had an argument, and it went on for a bit longer, and it was, I forget, no, that was when Trump was inaugurated, so it was right before I started T, and I lost something of hers accidentally, and I remember her saying, I do not believe that you are trans. I think you're just doing this so you can stay married to Riss. And I lost it. We didn't talk for a while, reconciled, and on her birthday, or I saw her around her birthday, she didn't seem to get it, so I just explained it in the best way I could. I really don't hate my past. I mean, I liked myself when I was a kid, and I'm not really uncomfortable with the fact that I was once presenting as female. But I do honestly feel that presenting and living as male works much better for me. I mean, the effects were almost immediate, and for some reason that seemed to click with her. Oh, now I get it. She still stumbles every now and then, but ever since, she's been extremely supportive. So my argument on my own show is, I don't care how big of a bigot you are, but if someone like my mother can stumble and get it, so can you.
Yeah,
Good.
that's
good.
fair.
And just to add on to that, if you wanted to get technical, you would have had to not transition to stay married to me since I was such a dyke, right?
Yeah, her argument was once, she's trans, that means she wants to get married to men, right? No, I
Ooh.
really don't think so. But,
Happy coincidence.
Right. Turns out.
uh,
So Celeste and I went to Michael's the other day to find a Christmas present for my mom, and I saw someone who I am almost positive was actually a guy who was very, very important on my past. My friend Elijah, who he played drums in a bunch of bands that I was in, and he and I were very, very close at one point. And he was the first friend I had ever had who had like some serious stuff in his past and chosen to share that with me. Because I had a lot of friends who I knew had some sort of trauma, some mental illness, suicide ideation, that kind of stuff. Like there were friends who I knew that stuff was a thing for them, but no one who had actually chosen to like share that kind of stuff with me on a deep level. And he did. And I mean, I would spend, especially like when I was between jobs, I mean, I would spend weeks sleeping at his house, just hanging out. And so we stopped seeing each other quite as much after the band stuff stopped, because that's just kind of how things work a lot of times. And he friended me on Facebook, and he had turned into this like conservative asshole. And
Oh no.
yeah. And this was before I had become super politically aware. So I just kind of shrugged it off, because it was like, at that point I was one of those people that was like, well, I disagree, but it's whatever. Like I wasn't to the level where I actually cared that much about it yet. And then as I was coming out to people, I sent him a Facebook message one day, and I told him, I said, yeah, this is a thing. I'm trans. And he actually got hurt that as close as we had been, that I had never shared that with him. Like he actually acted like it wasn't that he had any problem with me being trans. It was that he hated the fact that I didn't ever feel that comfortable enough to share that with him. And so I was like, well, then he's definitely on board. Like this is cool. And then not too long after that, he kept posting pro-Trump stuff, and so I ended up just unfriending him, quietly unfriending him. And I forget who it was. Somebody had told me that he was whining about me on Facebook. And he was whining that me and
snowflakes.
Right, exactly. Me and this the guy who'd been the other guitar player in our band had both unfriended him for the same reason. And of course he used my dead name, which was like stab him in the face. But so I went and I went look, because it had been months at this point. And I went back through his Facebook wall and I saw that he was actually posting anti-trans stuff. He was like, you know, I'm going to be the concerned father standing at the bathroom door, like one of those guys. Yeah. And so this is absolutely the worst I've ever gotten on Facebook. And I feel 100% justified doing it. So I commented on one of his posts and I was like, hey, remember that time you were bragging about not checking IDs while fucking underage girls and bragging about cheating on your girlfriend?
Shut up, Randall.
Yeah. Because that happened, right? Because he was the guy, like because the band that he was in before we were in a band together, they were one of the biggest bands in Cincinnati. Like they could easily draw 1,000 people to a show in their hometown and they were like on their way up. And so like he was like one of the band guys, you know, and yeah, I mean, he used to laugh and joke about not checking IDs when he would fuck these girls, and he would like laugh and make jokes about cheating on his girlfriend and like just the worst kind of person. And like, I'm not even necessarily trying to say that I'm above all this, because at the time I was going along with all of it, right? I didn't check him. I didn't say like, well, that's fucked up, dude. So like, I don't mean to make myself completely a saint in this. I have certainly changed since then. It doesn't seem like he has. So yeah,
was this before or after he ran for Senate in Alabama?
Right.
Nice.
No, he lives deep in the heart of Kentucky. That's where
There's
he's
a difference.
That's fair.
It's all the old Confederacy to me, you know.
That's fair. But yeah, I saw him and I just like that really stung, because you know, again, like, okay, yeah, he turned out to be a terrible person, but like I just keep remembering all of the fun that we had together and like traveling to shows and like playing shows out of town and getting to do amazing things. We played Warped Tour together one year, and it's like you wonder what stops someone from seeing that, like, because in my head I'm thinking, well, if I thought badly about trans people and then I found out this person who used to be my best friend is one, like that would at least make me think twice about where I was coming from. But I mean, he was like unambiguously like, trans people are terrible and they want to molest our kids and that kind of stuff. And like,
coming from the guy who fucks underage girls.
Well, right.
Yeah, really.
But I don't know. I just like, is there nothing that like will make people like that stop and think?
No.
The ones that react like that are hiding something, usually related to those, shall we say, shenanigans.
You think so? Like, because here's the thing. I know, like, there was that one small study that like did the like cis guys who are homophobes get aroused by gay porn thing, but like, I don't know. Like, I think it's simpler than that. Sometimes I think people are just assholes.
Sure,
and they're just like
too.
incurably assholes. I don't know.
but I don't necessarily mean that they're, you know, it's the old cis homophobes are, you know, aroused by gay porn. It's just more like they're making a big scene over something to cover up for something else. And it doesn't necessarily also have to be the fact that they're gay. But, you know, you were talking about your friend who used to fuck underage girls and may still fuck underage girls. And if that's what you do, of course, you're going to make a scene about, you know, this perceived other that might be doing that. Because if you jingle those keys over here, then they're not going to look at his activities.
Right. That makes sense. And yeah, well, and of course, my thought is like, well, you know the person you used to be and maybe to some degree still are. And maybe that's why you're so worried about it. But like, I just keep thinking like, You remember me being the person in the band who like, I would laugh and go along with that stuff, but I never did any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I was the person like at 16, like I almost ruined my first time having sex because I spent so much time getting consent from my girlfriend at the time. Like I wanted to have a 10-minute conversation about, are you ready for this? Are you sure you're okay? Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Is this okay? Like,
get up and fuck me.
Right. Like I said, yes. Can we just fucking do this, please? but yeah, and I don't know. I hate people. I think that's what it comes down to. I just seeing him was like, right. Well, and I just kept thinking, and I've had a couple of times lately where I've ran into people that like I used to work with or people that I used to know in some capacity, and I'm like there's absolutely no way that they would recognize me, like both just like as a human being and physically. When Celeste and I went and saw the new Star Wars movie the other night, there was a guy that I spent 3 years working with this guy at Best Buy. And like, I have no doubt that were I still pre-transition, that he would totally know who I was. And I mean, as far as I know, he's a decent guy. Like I don't have anything bad to say about him, but, and then I went to Best Buy to get, I bought a camera, and this dude, I trained him in home theater 10 years ago. Like I taught him what he knows about home theater, and I'm now talking to him about cameras and memory cards, and he has no fucking clue who I am. And that's like simultaneously really weird and like really pleasurable to me, like knowing that I'm such a different person in other people's eyes.
Kelly gets off on that.
Yeah.
Kelly gets off on most things, I think.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm kind of weird, if I can be honest.
Is this going into Hope After Dark? Well,
I guess Aiden and I have the benefit of not living anywhere near where either one of us grew up. So anyone who knows us out here either was among the first to know about us because this is the place where we felt safe, or met us as we are. So I guess we have that benefit, and also being in an incredibly trans safe area. But back before we moved, we had to worry about that a lot.
I don't know. One of my favorite examples of that last year, as far as as far as that, well, I decided last year I was going to reconnect with some of my friends from high school, and I ran into one of them who at the time, well, not at the time, but who I remember back in high school being, I wouldn't say super religious, but certainly involved with the church, and they convinced me to go to their church more than once, not to try and to indoctrinate me, but honestly because they're a good person and wanted me to try it out. And I was nervous about it. I usually have a whole spiel. This is, my nickname, which was Ace, and okay, I know this might be a lot, but I'm trans, and I know that sounds weird, but I'm still the same person. And I was hoping for the worst, the friend request being denied, a whole sermon on how wrong I was, anything. And not only did they accept, but they said, no, it doesn't sound strange at all. Actually, I've been questioning that myself. And as it turns out, he just started T a few weeks ago. So, best case scenario. And I'm so proud of him. Like, you too? Yay!
If we could all transition as fast as he did, like, this wouldn't even be a problem. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Under a year, I am still blown away by that.
That is the greatest. I found out that, like, almost all of my friends from when I was younger are queer, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, we were all in the little babbies in the closet at the time, but we all just kind of found each other. I'm the only one who's trans as far as I know, but almost all of my friends are some flavor of queer from when I was a kid.
See, I didn't really have a lot of friends growing up. Some of them are Facebook friends of mine, but we don't really talk that much. So I mean, none of them have ever said anything to me. Like I said, the way I present, it's basically right now makeup, eyeliner, and nail polish. And so I'm mostly read as an effeminate gay guy, even though that's wrong on both counts. Well, they're right about the effeminate part, but not about the gay and guy part, So I don't know. I guess because do you think that a lot of times, I don't know, I think I might be kind of, I don't know if, let me put it this way. I'm not purposely trying to go stealth. Okay, maybe just a little bit, because I know I am afraid that if I wear a skirt out in public, there might be a chance I'd get the shit kicked out of me, just a little bit, little chance. And so, and plus also I'm really poor, so I can't really do any medical stuff. Well, actually, I'm not really quite sure what medical stuff I want to do, or if I want to do any medical stuff. And I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I wonder if, maybe it's not that big of a deal with like a lot of my old classmates, because they don't read me as trans, I don't know if any of that made sense or not.
Yeah, it totally does.
No.
Well, and I remember, Trav, when I was talking about the kind of stuff that I wanted to talk about, that you were talking about how like there's not necessarily like a well-defined split between like your past life and your present life, like there is for some trans folks. And I think like, I mean, like zooming out overall, I think that's an important perspective, because I think a lot of times we think when trans people come out that means like, oh my gosh, everything in your life is now radically different. And I mean, for some of us it is, but for me it certainly was. But I think it's important and valuable to note that that's not necessarily the case. I've thought about like going to high school reunions, if that's a thing I want to do, like, because my 10-year was, I want to say it was like 6 months or so after I came out, like not very long at all. And I was just thinking like, do I want to do this? Because like in some ways I think it would be really funny. Like, because at that point I looked enough like my old self that people would have recognized me. And so like part of me enjoys the idea of being that like, oh my God, right. But then part of me remembered like what just absolute fucking assholes people in my high school class were.
Yep.
And so like, I don't know that I want to deal with that. And so now, when my 20-year reunion comes up, like, I just think to myself, like, I don't know that anyone would know who I was. Like people would ask me my name and I wouldn't tell them I would not say my old name, even as a, like, I used to be. Nope. Not going to happen. I'm Callie Wright. Oh, I knew this other person named Wright. Are you her sister? Or are you his sister? Yes, that's what it is. So I don't know. And then the other part of me is like, I still talk to all the people that I still care about from high school. So like, why would I even bother? Because it probably wouldn't be fun. Even if there wasn't the trans thing, like if I was just Callie all throughout high school and nothing had changed, like I still don't know that I would go, because like, who cares?
Yeah, I can't imagine wanting to go see all the people who beat the shit out of me for being feminine back in high school. So,
Same here.
And my legal last name is super rare, so they would obviously know who it was regardless. And maybe a lot of them grew up, and a few of them I still talk to from high school, and they know. But plenty of them from high school as well have, even this year, treated me like absolute shit. And the nice thing is I have enough of a support community that I can shame the fuck out of them whenever they say something like that.
Yep.
I think I have 2,100 friends on Facebook, and 1,900 of them I've gotten in the last year. So there's not a lot of crossover in that Venn diagram.
Right.
But I'm not particularly motivated to go home and be like, oh, hey, what have you been up to? Oh, yeah, I'm a chick. You didn't know that. So
Yeah.
remember how I wore dresses and you beat me up? Well, yeah, I still do.
Yeah. So like, yeah, so I'm married. I have kids. I've got a podcast. I write books. Oh, and I'm a chick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and part of me will, and this is, I'm just going to say straight out that this is not an impulse I'm super proud of, but like, let's just be real with it. Right. There are a lot of people who like thought really highly of themselves that I went to high school with, who I know are not doing so hot in life right now. And like, I kind of want to like feel good about that.
Oh, can I share a small anecdote about that?
Please.
Ooh.
Okay, so I was in the theater of the absurd in high school. We
What's
did a
that?
whole thing. Very. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's absurdist. It was very much
Okay.
plays that were nonsensical that would mock something. So, for instance, the play I was in was called The Bald Soprano, and it ends with a giant argument between two married couples yelling absolute nonsense phrases at each other. So there was, I remember the lines: Scaramouche, Satan-a-touche, go take a douche. I've been goosed. Just a whole bunch of random shit. So okay, that's not important. But the point is, the director of the other play that we were presenting, after 10th grade, I was being sent down to Florida to get my GED because they decided they didn't want to bother with me at that high school anymore. And I was trying to make the best of it and saying that I was going to start at community college at barely 17 years old after I got it. And I was kind of proud of that. And, they were like, oh, yeah, you go ahead and go to community college. And then in 10 years, you'll be working for me. It's just shit like that. And that just stuck in my goddamn craw for so long. And I remember when I went back to community college, when I made honor society, when I got into Penn, and then I wrote it down and carried it with me for all 6 years of college. And the day that I graduated, I finally pulled out that piece of paper one last time and went, fuck you, Will, and threw it away. So it was
Nice.
It's like, yeah, I'm never going to get anywhere in community college except the fucking Ivy League with a cum laude graduation and 3 degrees. Go fuck yourself. Oh, you're still living at home with your mom. Oh, isn't that sad?
Right. And here's the thing. I don't want to be that person. Like, I don't want to be the person that gloats over anything, right? Because I'm not better than anybody else. But like, to the people who are like, that's fair. But like, and I always want to be like, well, you did it first, so I'm going to tell you how much better of a person I am than you right now. But like, and the thing that's sad though, the thing that bothers me is that in so many ways to those people, like the things that I have accomplished wouldn't matter, and that's, if I can make things sad, because that's apparently one of my superpowers. When I've thought a lot of, like, there are so many memes going around Facebook about how it's okay to not want to repair your relationships with toxic people, right? 100% on board with 100% of that. You should feel no obligation to do so. Like, if you want to for its own sake, then do the thing, but it's not anything that you should feel obligated to at all. And I've actually been giving some thought to trying to reconcile things with my grandma, because not out of some like sense of like we share some DNA, therefore I have to have a relationship with you. But like I used to be her favorite grandkid, and she helped raise me, and we did so much fun stuff together, and and I have so many great memories with her. And I just keep thinking like, well, if I just construct the right argument, if I say the right thing, maybe she'll come around. Because before I stopped our relationship, I mean, she was calling me Callie. She was using the right pronouns. She even bought me clothes now and then. But there was always that thing in the air hanging, like, but I don't approve of any of this because of what God says,
Yeah.
And there were these little pot shots about adulthood because she's kind of petty. But, and obviously that had nothing to do with me being trans. I mean, that's just kind of who she is. And so I just keep thinking to myself, like, maybe it's worth trying to repair that relationship. But then, if I go to her house and I decide like, I want to talk things out. So we're going to catch up. How have things been? Cause I haven't talked to her in 2 years, 2.5 years actually. So obviously it's going to come up. So what have you been up to for 2.5 years since we talked? And I'm going to tell her about all of the amazing stuff that's happened in my life. I'm engaged. I had weight loss surgery. I had bottom surgery. I've spoken at a bunch of cons. I've traveled the country talking to people, learning about people's lives and stories as queer and trans people. All of the things that I am the most stoked on in life are all things that she hates.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, what do we have left at that point? Like, to force conversation about the weather?
I think that's tough only because we are often tempted to write people off in that sense. And I totally understand why you would, Callie. However, I also have to say that my grandmother on my dad's side is probably the most pro-Trump, conservative, Christian, like red-loving person, except when it comes to me. And when I came out to her, there was some slightly problematic things, like when we had a conversation, she said something along the lines of, "Thank you for not putting on makeup while you were talking to me," things like that. But we got a Christmas package from her. Both of us were addressed correctly. And she has been very specific to say, it would take time to adjust, but I was still her grandchild and she needed to get used to that. And, to sort of modify something we heard earlier, if an 80-something-year-old Southern Ohio, conservative Trump voter can adjust to names and pronouns, just like your mother, from a completely different background, but still, it's like, if they can do it, so can you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm wondering, maybe I should sort of talk to my folks about the whole pronoun thing. I'm not really quite sure how that conversation would go. I mean, like I said, well, at least my mom knows that I prefer they, them pronouns. But, like I said, she frequently, she has bad memory and, other neurological stuff. So I don't know if that's a conversation, something I should push, or maybe have some sort of compromise where I say, how about no pronouns at all? Because she goes to a pretty liberal Lutheran church where the pastor there, who's a female, doesn't even use pronouns for God. And so I was like, well, why don't you just, use my name the way
just pretend I'm God.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. That's true. But I was actually going with, her just saying the word Trav rather than he or she or even they, I don't know. It's like, I've been thinking I know we're going to talk about it in a future episode, Callie, but I think one reason why I had a really bad drinking problem this past year is because I don't really give myself permission to be myself. And I've always been like that for some reason. Mostly, I think it's because what happened was when I was, when I went out into the world and school and started socializing with other people after, my mom told me just be myself, everyone else was like, no! Don't be yourself. We don't like you. We don't like that. Be like everyone else. So I was like, okay, I guess I will,
That's how trans people feel like they have to overcompensate not being a burden to people. So that natural.
Oh my God.
That may be a natural reaction to that.
Yep.
Especially with the pronouns, Trav, which is something that I can relate to you on, since we both use they pronouns, and that's not something that a lot of people are used to.
Right.
Even now, when I'm supposed to be, out 100% of the time, when people get my pronouns wrong, I still don't correct them. Even if it's, a classmate or something, I'm just maybe 5% or 10% of the time I'll correct them, but usually I'll just not say anything because I'm like, do I really have a right to have this kind of strange request that I have that people use this type of language that they're not opposed to using? And also I'm just I don't want to make a scene. I don't want to take the focus away from whatever is happening in the situation and turn it on me and be like, oh, actually my pronouns are this. And then all of a sudden everyone's out of the conversation and I've interrupted and all of that. So I'm starting to get a little bit better at it because I have realized that when I tell people about it, most people are really understanding and want to do what makes me comfortable and want to refer to me the correct way. And sometimes they just forget and they need some prompting, which I have to, I have to help them along with, and other people will correct them too if I don't correct them. So it's just kind of the balance between understanding that people are going to mess up and it is going to take people time to get used to it. And then at the same time, you also have to try and be firm and set your boundaries and say, this is the way that you need to refer to me. And, if you mess up, I'm not going to hate you and scream at you or anything like that. I'm just going to correct you, which is something that I need to work on more.
Miss?
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell Trav what you... Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Miss, tell Trav what you usually tell me whenever I get down on being myself.
You are perfectly entitled to correct people when it comes to being who you are. You are entitled to be referred to correctly, and you don't have to make anybody uncomfortable. I mean, you don't have to be uncomfortable because somebody else might be uncomfortable if you correct them. I used to just let it go, but recently I've gotten almost oversensitive to it. Even I was in Sally's yesterday, and full makeup, everything, and I was getting my red hair dye, and the person up front went, "Where's my manic panic guy?" And I said, "I'm right here, and I'm not a guy." And he gave the whole, "Oh, that's how I refer to anyone." I'm like, I don't hear you referring to any of the other female customers in here that way. So
God, stop it. No, you don't. Oh, God.
It's like, dude, when it's the word dude, okay, I can kind of see that. Guy, especially in that way, no. But I actually had a good response recently when I flew down to Florida earlier this month. The Delta stewardess came by and handed me my drink and said, "Here you are, sir." And I said, "I'm not a sir." And she went, "Okay, sure." And I reported that shit to Delta the second I landed, and so did about 10 other people, because it's nice to have a support network. But Delta was so on that shit that they had a voicemail on my phone before I even got to Molly's house. They did not fuck around. So
I
awesome.
need a militia.
Yeah.
You've got one. You've got one.
Yeah.
I promise you've got one. You're part of the same community we are. People have showed up for all of us, and people will show up for you as well, my friend. I can promise you that.
You can be who you are and not have to be uncomfortable because you're afraid of people being uncomfortable. Don't worry about that. Be who you are. You can insist on yourself.
Yeah, I struggled with that a lot at first too, and that was something that I told almost everyone when I came out. Like, I'm gonna give everybody time to adjust. I don't want to just like spring this on everyone, and it was actually my friends and the people in my life that talked me out of it, because they were all so immediately accepting, and even one friend of mine who initially struggled with it. His response was like, "I'm having a hard time with this, but it's also not about me. So please do what you need to do. I just want to be honest with you about where I'm where I'm at." And I appreciated that. But he even said, he's like, "The thing that you have to do to make it better is to just do it, and I'll figure out how to deal with it." So I think there is also the idea that I think in a lot of times, if we are trying to do that for the people in our lives, make it easier for whatever they're dealing with, making it easier for them can sometimes end up being the thing that makes you the most comfortable anyways. And like, no, sorry, you don't get a 3-year-long adjustment period. This is now. This is it. And I'm not going to get out the pitchforks and start screaming when you mess up, but like, you're going to get corrected. And I think it is fair. And this goes back to a speech that I've given a million times, and I'm about to give it again. I don't think it's I don't think it's unreasonable for the people in our lives to ask for a little bit of grace in adjusting, right? When, okay, I've known you as this your entire life, and now I'm finding out you're this other person, and or that I have to think of you differently now. I'm on board with that, but it's going to take me some time to adjust. Okay. I don't think that's an unfair thing to ask. But the other side of that conversation is that, okay, but you need to understand that this is who I am. And so when you screw up, you're going to be put on notice that you screwed up politely, gently, however. And you have to understand that after a certain period of time, I'm going to get upset when you screw up. Even though I know you're not doing it to be hurtful, you're not doing it to be mean, it still hurts when you call me he. It still hurts when you call me by my old name. And I'm not angry at you necessarily. I'm not going to start screaming and yelling and make you feel like a terrible person, but you need room to adjust. I need room to be upset when things go wrong. And you have to be willing to give me that as much as I'm willing to give you the grace of the time to adjust, if that makes sense.
We don't owe anyone not being hurt by their mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. But devil's advocate, aren't we just like policing people's free speech and ruining the atheist movement with all
the
this
fuck out,
political?
Trev, I am in control of this
No.
Skype call, and
No.
like I can right click and uh,
Did you guys see that one recently where someone actually used that argument on me?
No, I don't
free
think so.
I
speecher.
don't think so.
Oh yeah.
And I had, someone said your definition of gender is invalid, and you cannot dictate to me what I call you. You are free to be whoever you want, but you will not tell me who you are in, your science.
Oh,
And
so
I
you
went,
were arguing with Jordan
That
Peterson.
asshole.
No, but I was able to go, hey, have you met my friend PZ Myers, who has been who has volunteered to be tagged into
Right.
any conversation?
Right.
And I told him that regardless of how much he masturbates over Ayn Rand, it's not going to change the fact that you don't have more right to my identity than I do. And someone else who I didn't know responded with the best comment ever. They said, I can't imagine being in a spot in my life where I would be so privileged that someone asking to be called their legal name is seen as an infringement on their rights. And I was like, fucking mic drop.
That's right.
And my response to that is always, yes, you do have the right to me. You do have the right to refer to me as an incorrect name or incorrect pronouns. I also have the right to think you're an asshole and not talk to you ever again.
Yep.
Yes. 100%.
Next time someone does that, I think I'm just gonna start calling them Shirley. Like, okay, Shirley.
Yeah,
my name's not Shirley. Whatever, Shirley.
Of course I'm serious. And don't call me Shirley.
And your name
Shirley.
is Susan and your pronouns are Zeezer.
That's
Because
right.
I decided they are.
Trav, I
Yep.
just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
There are probably like 5 people listening who got that reference.
Oh, God, we just aged ourselves.
I
didn't we?
know. Because
Chump
that's
don't
a
want the help.
fucking
Chump don't get the help.
because that's a fucking thing we can do is age ourselves now, right? Like,
Yep.
oh my God. The first time it happened to me was when my brother referred to the old Mega Man as Mega Man X on Super Nintendo.
Mm.
Nobody
we had one
else?
with the kids, didn't we? When we were watching movie reviews and they were talking about, what was it, Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Yeah.
And explaining how
Wow.
that was a pop cultural phenomenon when we were kids. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
Right. I was talking about Devon Sawa the other day. He was a big thing for
Oh,
like
I
3
remember him.
movies. The guy who played, I think he played Casper in the,
Yes.
like late 90s Casper the Friendly Ghost. Ari's like, I don't
Kissed
know.
my girlfriend Christina Ricci
I'm too young
twice.
for this shit.
I don't know. I think it's
Mr.
mostly
Babby.
our kids. I mean, I'm guessing since everyone watches, TV and there's the internet, there's Teen Titans Go, and I can't stand that show. And I remember telling the kids,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, this isn't anything like the original." There's an original.
Oh,
Yes,
gosh.
it's better written and it's a better art style. And yeah, but this.
Yeah, I had to stop myself when I started a story with back when I worked at Blockbuster Video. And
Oh,
So now I have to explain what Blockbuster Video is. And no, before that I have to explain what video stores are. Oh, before that I have to explain what videos are.
Uh-huh.
Either that or just show Kieran a picture of the very first cell phone. She loses her mind every time she sees it. What is that? Well,
Oh, we're old, Marissa.
yeah.
he's
Not
not.
me.
What?
I'm still young and spry.
Let me guess. I'm the youngest one in this conversation, aren't I?
No,
Probably.
probably not.
Why?
I think
How,
I'm younger than you.
how old?
I'm 25. I'm going to be 26 next month.
Hey, we're the same age. All right.
Oh,
Ah.
cool.
Doing good.
Actually, you are younger. 'Cause
Shit.
You will not be 26 until September.
Shit, I'm always the youngest one. Why am I
Damn.
the youngest one?
Wow, I thought you were older than I was.
Isn't it your
I always
best?
assume everyone's older than I am.
Fuck you, Marissa. And Ari, thank you. Thank you. I always wanted to be told that. Thank you.
Thank you for choosing to be born in January 1992.
So we got 3 old millennials and 2 young ones. Can start making our alliances now.
But I guess,
Mhm.
so yeah, I guess we are all millennials though. So we are all equally useless.
Mhm.
'Cause we've got that whole gender rainbow thing covered in this conversation. So
Oh, but wait. How are we useless if we're killing all of the industries?
yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
Well, yeah, so
right.
we're not actually useless. We are literally killing the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, we're monsters. Yep.
reason why we can't get any jobs is because we have killed all those industries.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And spend all our money on avocados.
That's right.
Avocado toast, Callie.
and brunch.
Oh, right. Avocado toast. Sorry. I had to complete that.
And that shit's good. I don't know what anybody else is bitching about. That shit's good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I need to confess that I've never had avocado toast.
It's just avocado on toast. It's pretty easy to make.
It
Wait,
looks
that's what it is? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Thanks for that, Ari. I appreciate
Well,
that.
actually, you have to take the avocado and press it out and dry it in a very specific way, and it turns into toast.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was
Very
too. When I first heard avocado toast, I was like, "What? What? A piece of toasted bread made out of avocado?" It's like, no, you just spread avocado on a toast. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that sounds pretty good."
You take the skin of the avocado and you dry roast it for 3 hours.
Well,
It's really
you know,
important
avocado
About the full name.
avocado chips are a thing. Like I'm getting
Really?
another shoulder massage.
Oh, yeah.
I am marrying her. Like, I am super excited about this. For the people not watching via Facebook Live, my wonderful fiance has entered the room and is massaging my shoulders because she's amazing. But so like I was trying to find a substitute for chips after my weight loss surgery, right? Like a healthier substitute. And I found that people do that with avocado, like smash it really thin and put it in the oven until it's crispy. I never tried it because as much as I love avocado, that still sounds gross to me.
Yeah, that sounds like it would totally ruin a perfectly good avocado.
well, right. Like I'm just saying, why wouldn't I just throw a little salt on some avocado and just eat some avocado?
Yeah. It's just
So.
from Jesus.
Yeah.
it's got to be a better substitute than rice crackers, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what I ended up doing is I actually like a thin layer of cheese and put it in the oven and it gets crispy and you can season it however you want. Oh my God. So,
Oh,
so good.
Nice.
And we'll be
Definitely
right
sounds
back
better
with
than
Cooking with
avocado.
Millennials right after this.
Right. Like that.
I had
like,
a microwave quesadilla for dinner.
Right.
Ooh.
I had crock pot loaded baked potato soup.
Oh, nice.
Well, given the cook in that house, Callie, that's not fair.
Hey,
Hey, you had Celeste's pot roast. I don't want to hear it.
Yes, I know, but still, hey, hello,
Yes,
cook
you're
right
good.
here.
I did not say you were a bad one. I just complimented Celeste.
Yeah.
That's
I-
all I did.
I actually made the baked potato soup.
Oh, you don't
Ooh.
have to lie like that. Nobody cooks in the same house. That's ridiculous.
No, you know, I actually cook more often than Celeste does, but like it's like one of those things when you know, the person who never talks, but like when they talk, it's the most profound shit you've ever heard in your life. That's what like Celeste is. She doesn't cook very often, but when she does, like, get the fuck ready.
The most
Ooh.
interesting trans in the world.
That's right.
I don't always cook dinner.
But when
but
I do,
It's pot roast. Stay hungry, my friends. So, trans stuff, right?
Right. I was gonna say this is like a way departure from the. I mean, I'm fine with it, right? Because it's Friendsmas. We're just hanging out.
Yeah,
So what else we got? Other deep thoughts?
Fucking no.
We're talking about avocado toast.
yes, I have one.
Mhm.
Kangaroos. When they dream, and when they do, I mean, do they dream like dogs, where you know they kind of like kick, like they're
Yeah.
like chasing a stick or something? I've always wondered that.
Yeah, never thought
I
of that
hope so.
before.
I hope they do, because kangaroos are adorable.
Aren't they?
I need
if
a-
Sleepy Carla comes out, do I stay on the podcast?
Shit. Might have to think about that.
And that, my
Right.
friends, is going to do it for this episode of the Geek. Oh, gosh. Well, I think.
Distracting some lonely people.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said, hopefully, we're distracting some lonely people for a while.
All right, that's the
Yeah.
idea. Like, I felt bad that we couldn't do it on Thanksgiving like we have the last couple of years. But the couple of years before that, I had managed to get off work on Thanksgiving. Even though I work in a call center and like you never get holidays off when you work in a call center, I managed to score Thanksgiving off the last couple of years. Of course, I managed to score Christmas off this year, so
Nice.
pretty happy about that. And Yeah. And like part of me feels guilty because a lot of people want Christmas off because they have kids. I don't have kids. I just want Christmas off because last year I was recovering from major surgery on Christmas and didn't have a super fun time. And this year I actually get to like hang out with my family and do stuff. So
Nice.
I'm excited about that. So.
Selfish.
What?
But wait a second, we're atheists. We're not supposed to celebrate Christmas. Remember, we're all supposed to be like Tom Flynn and just work all day, right?
You're not allowed to say that name on my show.
Sorry, I have to be the sarcastic one, you know. I really I don't want to have like dead air or anything like that, you know.
No, you're fine. You're fine. If we're going to talk about the war on Christmas, we need to talk about Beth Presswood, who is the general of the war on Christmas. And
We love Beth.
She is one of my favorite people for many reasons that high on the list.
Jeremiah likes to say that his favorite Christmas tradition is Beth Presswood going crazy on people
Yes.
saying they shouldn't
right.
celebrate
Oh,
Christmas.
it's so good. Oh, it's so good.
I feel like we should also just talk about the fundraiser we did.
Yeah.
Yes. Do the thing.
So I was talking with Ted's partner's partner. So Ted's mother is a metamor. I've never met her, but I got to hear that ever since Ted got into Gaia school, they've been happy to go to school again.
Oh, good.
And, they had the happiness and wearing whatever they wanted to sort of just pushed out of them, and that they were, I used to like this, but I don't anymore. A lot of that. And in the last few weeks, that has just really blossomed with them again. And the school has just been so amazing, not just for their experience, but their attitude and their happiness. And I also think it's amazing that not only that people donated, we didn't quite make the goal, but we made enough of it that it made the difference. And just how many people in the podcasting community were willing to take a few minutes of their time and say, yeah, thank you. I'm going to mispronounce all these names now, but thank you.
I feel personally attacked because that's literally what I did.
Oh, that's no big deal. But if you haven't heard all of them yet, you should. They're spread across 2 episodes. But I mean, we had everyone from friggin' Noah, Lucinda, Jesse Dollamore was on there, Sharon, you, everyone on the
Shives, that regressive cuck.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. The first 5 were, of course, on the Sis show 2 weeks ago. But then the second half, 35 minutes worth of people just who came on to say thank you for our little fundraiser. And that, I think, is something to really be proud of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice to get some good news in the big dumpster fire that was 2017, which led to my year-long drinking problem. So, yeah, we're yay for sobriety and fundraising.
That was really offensive to dumpster fires, Trav.
Right. Yeah, we gotta be careful. We gotta be careful with that.
I guess I gotta go flush myself down the toilet now.
Yep, you're a bad ally to the dumpster fires.
Yeah.
We're gonna get so many angry emails.
I personally identify as a dumpster fire, and what Trav said was unacceptable.
Is that
pulling my
chosen partner
Patreon
for the
pledge.
attack
I'm gonna
helicopter?
give it to Jordan Peterson.
You said the name. I said it earlier.
Yep.
So let's close the episode. I would love to go around the panel here and just hear you talk about one thing or a few things that you're grateful for that happened this year. Who wants to go first?
Fine. To be fair, I just said the thing I'm most proud of this year, but I'll have to think of a different answer now that we're on spot. But I've traveled probably as much as you have this year, Callie, and it was a lot more night and day of kicking down the closet door for me since I made my first appearance as my true self on your show about 13 months ago. And I think I've been in 20 states this year. And I've been in awesome places and terrible places. I've been in Seattle, but I've also been in Salt Lake City. And I was in Flint, Michigan. And I got to spend time with Standing Rock natives there. And all because I wrote a book that said, fuck you, Donald Trump, a few days after he was elected. Like, that's the reason most people know who I am. And I'm okay with that. But in that amount of time, I've released a bunch of podcasts. I've written a few words, and I've made so many amazing friends and gotten so many opportunities to help other trans people. And the fact that anyone trusts me with that kind of responsibility and reaches out to say hi and even forms a little militia where they attack people so I don't have to, like, I'm still convinced I'm living in some alternate timeline where people actually know who I am, because I am still trying to have some connectability to the fact that I deserve anything that's happened to me. And I just try to take all those good vibes and the fortune that I've had in the last year and try to pay it forward like we did with Ted. So I'm grateful for the fact that despite a terrible thing that happened at the end of last year, I have seen a lot of people wake up from apathy. I have seen a lot of people start actually doing things, whether that, even if it's just keyboard warrioring or if it's marching in the street and getting involved. I mean, trans people were elected this year. That is surreal. And I'm in the city where they elected 2 of them. So I like to think that a lot of people thought, well, this doesn't really affect me, so I don't have to worry about it. And unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with the consequences of that decision. But also seeing that people aren't as negative or hateful or irresponsible or, anything like that as much as we think that they are in our worst of times. So I just want to thank everybody who has stood up for people and helped other people out in this particularly dark time for a lot of different marginalized groups.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. Well, mine kind of branches out a little bit, or is kind of convoluted. I don't know. Maybe it's 2 separate things, but in June, I heard of a politician, and unfortunately, this first part doesn't even deal with anything in the United States, but there is there's someone that was elected to the Tokyo City Council this summer, and his name is Toyoma Hosoda. He is the first openly trans man to be elected to the council, and even campaigned that way, and he still got elected. I've been struggling a lot with, I've been struggling a lot with visibility for trans men and non-binary folk as well, and trans masculine folk, because every time, well, I wouldn't say every time, but up until very recently, whenever the term transgender was applied to anyone, or was mentioned in conversation, someone like Laverne Cox would always come up. And Riss used this thought experiment in one of her speeches one of your speaking engagements that I saw. Name one trans male celebrity aside from Buck Angel, and everyone kind of goes, So I'm seeing visibility for us. I'm seeing visibility for trans masculine individuals as well. And I'm even surprised. God, this sounds it's like self-fellatio, but I'm honestly surprised that that people even listen to my show. I mean, that many, Jesus. But it came out of necessity because I got so sick of seeing so many different trans men saying, I have no money to afford my needles. My pharmacy doesn't have them, when you can get them off of Amazon. Or that dreaded question that always made me bang my head on the keyboard. So how long can I bind with ACE bandages? No. Do that. Don't do that. So I started the show in April, and now, we have there's one trans man that was elected in Erie, Pennsylvania. There's what is his name? Felipe Cunningham, who was elected here in the Twin Cities. Toyoma Hosoda, who was elected in Tokyo. We're finally getting some visibility, and it gives me some hope for the future, because yes, people are correct when they use the term transgender and think of Laverne Cox or you, Callie, or you, Marissa. But we also need to see a much, 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 much wider visibility on trans men like myself or Felipe or Tyler or
Tall
even
Tyler?
I wish,
Tyler, come here.
or Styles.
We're going to get married again, Tyler.
or Styles, because obviously there is not a lot of questions. There's not a lot of answers to questions that younger trans men have, and I will not make a secret of this. I am still extremely frustrated that there is there's really no bottom surgery option for trans men, or not one that's done universally or one that's deemed safe or worth it. And we need to change that. So I'm thankful for higher visibility for us. And it really gives me hope for the next year and hopefully the next 5 to 10 years to come.
Right. I guess I'll go next. Let's see here. I'm thankful for basically all of you, even though I sometimes feel like I sometimes worry that you all feel like you have to keep reminding me like every other day that, my voice matters. I'm pretty sure you're like, oh shit, I gotta answer Trav's text again. They're depressed, but I really do appreciate. Oh yeah, that's mostly just Callie, but yeah, I do appreciate, all the love and support that I've gotten from, you all and everyone listening, and like the people who, message me and say, hey, thanks for representing NBs. And so I just have to remember that people really appreciate what I do, and more often.
Ari, what do you got?
Do I have to talk about feelings? I don't like this part.
Hey, I managed to do that sober, so
That's true. If you did it, then I could do it too.
and
I guess-
sober too.
Yeah. I guess it's really something very simple, which was that just last week was the first time that I was ever able to have all of my chosen family together in the same room with one another. So my partners, Zach and Jeremiah, and Casey, who's currently visiting, and she and Zach are on the couch playing Nancy Drew currently. Because Casey had met Jeremiah, and of course she's been around Zach before, but never all of us together at the same time. And so since she's here for Christmas, we were able to hang out with Jeremiah for he spent the night over a Saturday and then spent all of Sunday with us. And then we met up again later in Denver to do some trivia at some pizza place. And I don't know, I guess that's a really simple thing, but it means a lot to me because I guess just because, since I don't really have a family now except for like my partners and everything, because I don't have contact with my biological family. And so the holidays are like, it's weird because I am very happy that I'm not around them because I would be miserable and stuff would be awful like it always is. But then I do in a weird way kind of miss them in that weird way just because they've always, been there since I've been a little kid and that one stable thing in my life. And then, now that one stable thing is gone, I have to kind of piece together a new stability in my life as far as family goes. And hopefully this turns out to be a pretty stable arrangement. But yeah, I guess it just feels good to have Zach and Casey around. And Jeremiah is unfortunately not here for Christmas itself because he's in Arizona with his family. But, I still was able to spend time with him and all of us together. And I'm still, texting him and everything. So it just feels good to have people that I can think of as my family and I can think of as being a stable support who aren't also shitheads. So that's all right.
No, I think that's totally valid.
And we've kind of incorporated a bunch of our family traditions together. So we're having tomorrow morning, Christmas morning, we're having Zach's family's traditional Christmas breakfast, which is biscuits with chocolate gravy and bacon and sausage. And I got some vegetarian sausage. It's great. And
right.
Casey's made us a bunch of cookies and bought us a little small Christmas tree, which is our first Christmas tree since moving away from our families. And we've got our cat. So being a little shit as usual, but
Right.
we're kind of building a new family in the place of the old family that sucked, which is good.
That's awesome.
I should book a red-eye flight to go over there. It's like, I want my biscuits and chocolate gravy.
I'll send you the recipe. Zach has it. He got the recipe from his dad so we could make it this year since we're not there this year.
Do
That's
it. Do the
awesome.
thing.
Well, so I guess that leaves it to be my turn last. And God, I could do like another entire hour and a half long episode on the things that I'm grateful for this year. My health being a big one. I had my weight loss surgery December 21st. So, a year ago, just a few days ago. And I don't just mean like the number on the scale. I mean like measurable things about my health that have gotten so much better, and I feel so much better physically, and having Celeste there with me through all of that. And then in April we got engaged at a convention in front of 500 people, and there were that wasn't just a me thing. There were so many people behind the scenes who helped make that happen because they love us. And everybody from Gene, the organizer of ReasonCon, who I'm super grateful allowed me to do that and set some things up at the convention to make that able to happen. And Shelly for singing for us. She was super excited to be a part of it. Love her to death. And so like grateful for all of that. And then having our bottom surgeries together in San Francisco. Again, that never would have happened if it weren't for the support of a lot of people. And I don't just mean the fundraiser. I mean, the fundraiser was a huge help, and we probably couldn't have done it without the fundraiser. But like, I'm not even talking about that. Just the emotional support, the people that like in the darkest times where like I'm in pain and I'm not feeling good, and there's part of me that's questioning like, oh my God, I really, really hope this is going to be worth it. I don't know if this is going to be worth it. Like all of the people who were right there in the thick of it. I mean, even just on Facebook, like just Facebook Messenger. Hey, we're thinking about you. Hey, we want the best for you. We love you. We want to see good things happen to you. Through, setting our wedding date, Celeste and I, it's been the best year of my life, hands down, this year. And it sucks that comes all in the midst of the literal fucking world being on fire. But I can't say enough good things about the people in my life, especially the people on this Skype call. You all have been part of so many special things in my life. And even Celeste, who doesn't have a mic, but anybody who's watching on Facebook Live can see her. She's got her chin resting on my shoulder now. I am grateful for so much in my life this year, and I'm grateful for all of the people in my life who have helped make these amazing things happen. I've seen so many of my dreams come true on a personal level, and I feel like we've been able to accomplish a lot of things with the show, making people feel good about themselves, helping people out a lot, and that's super valuable. And I mean that's not something that just I did or that just Ari and I did. That's something that a lot of people have helped make happen. And I am incredibly, incredibly grateful for everyone who's had any involvement in that. Most especially the people on this call, because it's not exclusively the people on this call, but I feel like the people on this call are the people who probably played some of the biggest parts. And so to all of you, I love you all dearly, and I could not be more grateful to have you all in my life as Ari is making this.
Oh, stop that, Ari. You know,
Aw.
you love Kelly as much as we all do.
Yeah, but I can't admit it.
Well, that, my
It's more
friends,
in-depth.
well, actually, thank you all for joining me. I was going to start the outro without even thanking you all. So Marissa, Aiden, Trav, I love you all. Thank you so much for joining us. It is greatly appreciated.
Thanks for having us on.
Of course, we love you too.
And that, my friends, is going to do it for this episode of the Gaytheist Manifesto. We are a proud member of the Trans Podcaster Visibility Initiative. We are a group of trans podcasting badasses working to bring more trans voices into podcasting and other content creation. Search for the Trans Podcaster Visibility Initiative. Search for the Trans Podcaster Visibility Initiative on Facebook for more info. You can find the show on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gaytheist Manifesto. You can email us at podcast@thegaytheistmanifesto.com. I'm on Twitter at Gaytheist Callie. You can find the show on Twitter at The Gaytheist. And I hope Ari's got a thing.
'Twas the night before Crimba, and all through the apartment, not a creature was stirring, except for Tina, who was trying to get into the trash and being a little shit. The Stillmans were lying asleep in their bed, with visions of Crimburgers all up in their heads, when suddenly a knock rang out from the door. Now who could that be? Did you order a whore? Ari fumbled awake and shuffled inside, like a sleepy zombie whose insides were dead. They unlocked the door and turned on the light, and what they saw there gave them a great fright. Santa, they cried, I thought you were fake. Whatever are you doing at our doorstep so late? The figure stepped forward into the hall, dwarfing young Ari, who was very small. The cat became spooked and runned away, praying, save me, Ted Cruz, as under the bed he lay. Ari called Zach, is everything fine? I think so, they hesitated, and ended this line. Zach came forward into the room, and when he saw their guest, his heart did a bang-ding-zoom. I don't think our visitor is Santa, you see, for his skin is all red and his tail pokety. And just as he said that, Ari jumped with glee, for they realized what it was that Zach had come to see. Kalu, huzzah, they both cried with all their might. Our Lord and Savior Satan has come in the night.
Yeah.
Oh, Satan, said Ari, you must be so hungry after traveling so long and so far. Also, scrungy. I have something for you. This afternoon I baked them. And they offered a cookie which spelled out, Hail Satan.
Yeah.
The devil ate, stuffing his ravenous head. And with his blood sugar up, he finally said, excellent, faithful servant and gobbledygurk. Now where can I follow more of your work? Well, Satan, I'm flattered, but surely you know that Facebook is always the best place to go. But if you're old-fashioned or your message is long, you can send it to aristillman4@gmail.com. I don't want to assume your gender, Dark Lord, but the cis are getting out of hand is good if you're bored. Otherwise, Satan, and I know this is your style, the SJW circle jerk is honestly vile. Devil tossed back his head in a snort, and a deep laughing burst forth from him, of the sort that shook the apartment at its very foundations as he suddenly disappeared along with the libations. The best Christmas ever, sighed Ari, contented, as they leaned against Zach, whose tummy got dented. They whispered as the demon king took his great flight. Hail Satan to all, and to all a good night.
Ow,
And how are we going to back that up?
fucking standing. I can't. Oh gosh, I can't even pretend like that didn't happen and finish reading the outro. Ari, nicely done, very nicely done.
I down.
If you want to support the show and the activism we do, you can head to patreon.com/The Gaytheist Manifesto and make a donation as little as $1 per episode. You can also head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. That helps us move up in the rankings and get heard by more people. Before we go, I want you to know that if you're lost, you're hurting, you're scared, if you feel like no one cares and no one understands, you need to know there's a community out here that loves you, cares for you, knows that you're capable of amazing things and that you are worthy of love. If you're struggling, please don't be afraid to reach out. Until next time, friends, this is The Gaytheist Manifesto.